A self-taught printmaker and compulsive wanderer of landscapes, Sherrie York recently relocated to Maine from her native Colorado. A long-ago college field trip to draw backyard chickens was the unexpected genesis of a meandering and somewhat accident-prone career that encompasses environmental education, natural history illustration, birding, and printmaking. Through the medium of linocut, Sherrie finds her way to place inspired by experiences and observations from mountains to the sea. Her work has been presented in national and international exhibitions, including the Woodson Art Museum's prestigious Birds in Art.
I think I need to clarify that recently moved to Maine means 5 days ago. And clearly, so far from this evening, I'm absolutely in the right place. But I visited here for the first time in 2005, when I was artist in residence at Acadia National Park. It rained 19 of the 26 days I was on the peninsula. Nice place to visit, I thought. Wouldn't want to live here. The work I'm sharing tonight begins, as I myself did, in the high desert of the interior West. It's a land of big skies, thin air, and fewer than 10 inches annual precipitation. Water is on our minds there too, but mostly due to lack, not excess. High desert or rocky coast, sun, rain, or snow, I'm a compulsive wanderer. And during my wandering, I've met scientists and land stewards, educators, birders, and artists. Their work, their curiosity, knowledge, and commitment to understanding and protecting nature constantly inspires me to pay attention. While I was learning to pay attention, I spent more than 25 years working as an illustrator and graphic designer for natural resource agencies and conservation organizations, primarily developing educational materials and exhibits. But I also had a parallel and perhaps slightly secret career making linocuts. When I say that I make linoleum block prints, I find that most people are reminded of junior high art class. And yes, I use the same materials, tools, and process that created your 7th grade holiday card. Carving tools, a brayer, ink, and a spoon, although these days I do also use a press. For a long time I focused on single color prints, my imagery dominated by landscapes and plant life. But one day I asked that fateful question, what might this look like in 2 colors? And it was all downhill from there. I started to teach myself reduction printing. In the reduction process, all colors of an image are printed from a single block, one on top of the other in succession. First, I carve away areas of an image that will remain white. I ink the block with the first color, in this case blue, and print it, usually 20 to 25 times to start. Once I have printed the first color, I clean off the block and carve into it some more. I ink the block with the second color, print that over the top of the first, 20 to 25 times. Carve, print, repeat, reducing the printable surface of the block at each stage. That's where the name comes from. When I started experimenting with color, I began a series called Underfoot. I didn't know it was going to be a series when I first made this first print. But 2 critical things happened while I was out looking at birds and hanging around with biologists. Number 1, distracted by unfamiliar birdsong, I failed to notice a broken slat in a bridge over an irrigation ditch. This ditch. And I stepped through it. Number 2, at a field research station, a colleague said, "Hey, look, red-bellied woodpecker." I looked up, fell down, and broke my elbow. I can't say that these events directly inspired the series, because of course it was self-preservation rather than aesthetics that encouraged me to do a better job of watching where I was going. But looking down, I discovered that I loved the intricate textures and patterns in the landscape at my feet. Clearly, though, watching birds is a desperately dangerous occupation. But I scoff in the face of certain doom and continue the practice. One day, I dared to look off a pier, and the reflection of the railing, churned up by handout hopeful mallards, launched my most prevalent theme, birds, and water. Joey, we're going to be best buddies. Why birds? We'll ask the question again. Because they are not just at sea, they are everywhere, and they give us a point of connection. I find most people have a bird story to share, something that made them laugh, or cry, or gasp in wonder. Cardinals at a feeder, owls in the woods, puffins on a Maine island, or coots on a pond. Absent but for one or two individuals during the summer, dozens of coots appear on my Colorado neighborhood lake during migration. Like mushrooms after rain, they sprouted spontaneously on the surface of the water. I never saw them arrive, and I never saw them leave. And speaking of rain, again, my friend Sue cheerfully admonishes me to embrace the weather in all seasons, and birds do just that, be it fair weather or foul. Like water off a duck's back, we say, which brings me to the question, in addition to why birds, why water? I don't suppose I have to explain the visceral appeal of water to folks who live near and make their living from the sea. But of course, clean water of appropriate temperature is imperative for living things in all environments. And honestly, it's just fun to carve and print. A bird, or two, or four, on or in the water, can create fascinating patterns of ripples and reflections, a graphic image that is perfect for relief printing. The wake pattern created here by the single-minded intent of mooching mallards might even remind you of a moment in your own experience. Birds and water inspire our imaginations. We say we can be swept away, or we indulge in flights of fancy. Do two small grebes asleep on a lake dream of adventures on the high seas? Or did watching them on that wind-tossed surface plant the seed of my own migration to the coast? Certainly migration is part of the mystique and appeal of birds. The common tern's annual trek between northern Canada and South America is impressive, but its cousin, that Arctic tern, might fly 25,000 miles per year between the Arctic and Antarctic. Kind of makes last week's 2,400-mile trip from Colorado to Maine no big deal. So now that I'm here, how will I find my place? I'm a printmaker, so I'll press on, of course. I'm looking forward to more wandering as I explore my new stomping, soaring, splashing grounds. I'll be watching birds, certainly, and of course I'll also be watching where I put my feet.